Good morning, everybody. From Sibos here in Sydney, Australia, we're joined with Peter Hainz, the Global Programs Manager at SmartStream. Peter, what do you think are the drivers or demand factors for AI inside financial institutions?
Sure. The main driver is cost efficiency. So when we're looking at, for example, automating the transaction matching process, this is a classic example. Another driver is the regulatory space. So when we're looking at the regulatory space, we have a lot of data. So data is collected, and data is used, for example, for stress testing. And stress testing, we can use the data for analytics. We can use the data for anomalies with artificial intelligence. And one more driver, I would say, is if you're looking at the operational process and the user experiences. So one example is, for example, the exception management. So classifying the exceptions and then routing the exceptions to the right stakeholders.
Peter, what technology is supporting AI and what kind of things can we expect coming with AI for financial institutions?
Super fast chips in combination with massive amounts of data, and this gives algorithm a magic boost. So banks have massive amounts of data, and this is very important, for example, for data analytics. We received the following feedbacks from banks. It's about 80% of getting the data right and 20% of getting the model right. What is also very important if we look at, for example, information overload. So what is fake news? What is real news? So natural language processing is used to extract the right data and to differentiate between fake and real news.
Peter, can you give an example of an operational process that might be well suited towards AI in banks?
So if we're looking at the workflow from an intraday liquidity perspective, we have the back office, we have the mid office, we have the front office. At the back office you have, for example, the reconciliation process, meaning you load data, you transform the data, you match the data, and once you match the data you have exception management. And as mentioned, this is ideal for artificial intelligence. You classify the exceptions and then route the exceptions to the right stakeholders. Another example in the back office is cash sweeping. Very important to have real-time data in cash sweeping. And if you're looking at the mid office is very involved in stress testing. Again, lots of data through regulations. I mentioned liquidity. If we're moving to intraday liquidity, we have the Basel Committee of Banking Supervision. They are looking at monitoring of intraday liquidity, and they want to know stresses like own financial stress, customer stress, counterparty stress, macroeconomic stress, and then you combine various scenarios, and once you combine these scenarios, you have various data, and then you can look at anomalies and, for example, pattern prediction. And this can be very nicely used for the front office, for example, for payment scheduling and payment throttling.
Peter, could you perhaps share with us some case studies of where banks are working with the SmartStream Innovation Labs to come up with real-life solutions and case studies of how we can use AI today?
When we're looking at the case studies, and I will also combine it a little bit with the regulatory perspective, we have the regulatory perspective, as mentioned, the stress scenarios, meaning you have these stresses I talked about, and then we combine it, for example, how much payment I have in the morning, what are my peaks and troughs, and then you're looking at the balance, and then at the balance you're looking at anomalies. So we have an AI financial monitor which looks at anomalies along balances in combination with stress scenarios. So this is one use case. Another use case is digital fingerprint. So if you're looking at the fingerprint, it has certain patterns. So it's pattern recognition. And this helps in identifying and spotting missing data or incorrect data, and then you can match it. So this is one use case, so digital fingerprint. And another use case I would mention is invoice extraction via natural language processing. So you imagine banks, they receive tons of data from brokers, invoices. And in these invoices you have an amount, you have a date, and machine learning supports in extracting the right data and then reconciling the right data. And these are the case studies. We have more case studies, but these are selected ones which I would like to share with you.
Finally, Peter, is there a regulatory push or play behind the use of artificial intelligence in financial institutions, and how does SmartStream play in that space?
Yeah, there's a regulatory push, as you mentioned it. Data, very important. And I mentioned the Basel Committee for Banking Supervision. For the wider audience, what is the Basel Committee? This is the central bank of the central banks. And they mentioned it is very important with the paper BCBS 239 to measure and monitor the accuracy of data. And here we are supporting banks in establishing a higher accuracy level of data with our innovation lab.
Peter Hainz, thank you very much.
Thank you.